Tonight, find out exactly where residential fires are coming from. ISO chairmanship improves our visibility. And Health Ministry to conduct registration drive soon. But first tonight, a woman and her 7-month-old baby are dead following an alleged domestic dispute at a settlement outside VCC, Lautoka. Police spokesperson Anna Naisoro said the incident happened between 10 o'clock this morning and midday. It's alleged the deceased, a 33-year-old woman, had a dispute with a 22-year-old woman. Both women lived in the same house with a 31-year-old man. Police confirmed that the deceased was the wife of the man, while the 22-year-old suspect was his de facto wife. Police were alerted when the woman and her baby were taken to the hospital. Both were pronounced dead on arrival. The 22-year-old has been taken in for questioning. Investigations continue. The recent spate of fires has uncovered something rather disturbing. The National Fire Authority has established that most of these fires occur in informal settlements. As Ravai Vafo explains, this is something the NFA is now trying to address.
According to the NFA, majority of residential fires have occurred in informal settlements. It's definitely cause for concern given that all buildings need to be given the all clear by the NFA in terms of fire safety requirements. However, this becomes a challenge, especially when dealing with homes in informal settlements.
Most of the fires have been in residential fires, have been in informal settlements. So it's very difficult, because they don't apply. When they build a house, they don't apply for just build a lean-to house and so forth.
The increase in informal settlements ultimately increases the risk of fires. There are several contributing factors, weather being one of them, as well as the close proximity of homes. But the NFA says it is addressing this issue.
Majority of our residential fires which have taken place in the informal sector, where they don't apply for their plans to be vetted.
NFA says the best approach they can take now is to increase the awareness amongst residents in informal settlements about the importance of fire safety.
For us to make sure that those in that sector consider fire safety, because for them the likelihood of fire happening is higher because the buildings do not comply with the standards and requirements.
So far, there have been close to 110 fires compared to 95 for the same period last year. Reviver for all, Fiji One News.
It'll definitely be a great start to the new year for various industry workers following government's announcement of a 10% pay increment. This will be effective from January 1st. Workers across the pine industry are amongst those benefiting from the pay rise.
Effective from 1st of Jan, all the companies in the pine industry, which is Fiji Pine Limited, Tropic Wood Industries Limited, Tropic Wood Products Limited, and Fiji Forest Industries Limited, all of the workers except the management in those companies will get a 10% pay rise.
There's no doubt that the pay rise will be welcomed by those in these industries, also benefiting those from the National Fire Authority and the local government authorities.
All the National Fire Authority workers, except management again, will also get a 10% pay rise effective from 1 Jan. And all municipal council workers, except management again, will also get a 10% pay rise from 1 January 2014.
A Chinese national who failed to declare foreign currency at the Nandi International Airport on Monday appeared in the Nandi Magistrates Court. 23-year-old Wan Ming Wu was charged for one count of failing to declare $13,000 in Australian currency. He appeared before Magistrate Penny Ndalituidama and pleaded guilty to the charge. Wu was fined $1,000. Magistrate Ndalituidama ordered that the money be returned to Wu. The 57-year-old security officer alleged to have caused the death of a 43-year-old man at the weekend has been granted bail by the Nandi Magistrates Court. Suliano Susu, who was charged with one count of dangerous driving, occasioning death, appeared before Magistrate Penny Ndalituidama. Susu deferred to take a plea and asked the courts for time to engage a lawyer. Magistrate Ndalituidama granted bail to the sum of $1,500 and ordered him not to interfere with witnesses. The case will be called on the 4th of January 2014. The Health Ministry aims to register everyone in the country over the next 2 years. At the moment, close to 95% of people are already registered. The decision to embark on this ambitious target comes as Fiji assumes the role of chair of the civil registration of vital statistics for the Asia-Pacific region.
Some years ago, Fiji, along with other Pacific Island countries, developed a Pacific Vital Stats Forum. Since then, Fiji has been leading the way in terms of record-keeping of birth and death rates. With majority of the population already accounted for, efforts are now being made to register the rest.
Close to 95% of women deliver in hospitals in Fiji. So what we have is all these children who are born are given birth certificates prior to discharge. The parents need to return in 6 weeks and give a name, and the birth certificate is incomplete. However, we know there are gaps in the mountainous areas, in the maritime areas, and we are looking at addressing this issue to take our registration up to 100%.
This exercise is expected to take a couple of years for Fiji to compile the remaining data.
Every child who is born is registered, but what happens is because of the difficulties with where you have people from the mountainous areas or the maritime areas, they go out, and for them to register and come back, it might be a costly affair. So we will be looking at innovative ways of getting them registered whilst they're still in the village or out in the maritime areas.
As the chair of the Asia-Pacific Vital Stats Forum, Fiji will also be pushing other countries to embark on a similar exercise to register its people. A large ministerial meeting is also planned next year to get an update from members of the forum.
Working towards encouraging other countries to follow suit as far as registration. They have large populations, different type of geography, and the specific cultural and traditional issues which need to be addressed. They do need to form national CRVS committees.
Fiji is represented by Dr. Sharma, and the chairmanship term is up till November next year. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
Fiji has made a substantial impact on sugar-producing countries during its tenure as chair of the International Sugar Organization. Permanent Secretary for Sugar, Manasa Vaningi, says while it was not an easy task, certain objectives have been met. Halitesh Dutt with the story.
The machines for plowing is too expensive, too excessive, and cost around now $120 to plow for 1 acre.
And just going back to that story again, Fiji has made a substantial impact on sugar-producing countries during its tenure as chair of the International Sugar Organization. Permanent Secretary for Sugar, Manasa Vaningi, says while it was not an easy task, certain objectives have been met. Halitesh Dutt with the story.
It was the first time ever for Fiji to be at the helm of the International Sugar Organization. Being a small sugar producer, leading 86 countries was easier said than done.
We gained through the research work undertaken, the bulletin, analysis, market evaluation, statistics, all this it's very, very expensive.
Being the chair of the organization, Vaningi adds, Fiji has made itself more visible amongst other countries. The sugar industry here can also expect some form of assistance from its bigger counterparts to aid further development.
Our entering new market areas, new research, the printing of new publications and bulletins, the market intelligence being provided, the commodities fund that is provided by the ISO. This all, Fiji is at the helm.
Vaningi says the main message by Fiji to other sugar producing countries was unity.
We need to come in and be part of the group. Otherwise, you will be left alone.
Fiji handed over the chairmanship to Jamaica at the beginning of the month. Brazil and India are the largest sugar producers in the world. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
Meanwhile, the Sugar Ministry purchased 3 new tractors today. This is an investment of $700,000. Permanent Secretary Manasa Vaningi says this machinery will supplement cane planting and sugar yield. The ministry aims to produce close to 4 million tonnes of sugarcane and 300,000 to 400,000 tonnes of sugar by 2017.
The machines for plowing is too expensive, too excessive, and cost around now $120 to plow for 1 acre.
Plans are afoot to purchase 3 more tractors next year. The tractors will be based at each mill area and farmers will be charged a minimum amount if they wish to use these tractors.
Altogether now, it should be around 10 tractors available. FEC has purchased a few others second-hand from overseas.
Ahead in the news, Health Ministry launches research portal. And Raiwanga Market to be revamped soon. The Ministry of Health launched a research portal this morning. The portal will contain all research undertaken by the ministry. However, Minister Dr. Neil Sharma says more research needs to be conducted for illnesses such as cancer and non-communicable diseases.
Tapping into results of various research conducted by the Health Ministry is as easy as clicking on a button now. The launch of its research portal now means that manually recording data on paper will be a thing of the past.
This research portal effectively means that we are able to put our research up into the media for analysis to ensure that it is safe, and then have it sort of approved and undertake your research, and you put your research back onto the portal. And it is in alignment with the WHO practices.
There's also been a noticeable increase in the number of research conducted. It's up from 20 in the last decade to 100 this year. However, this may not be enough as changing trends in issues such as NCDs needs more attention.
We also have neglected tropical diseases still, or communicable diseases. We still have filariasis around. We are researching at present the incidence of trachoma virus infection. We have a high incidence of sexually transmitted disease. All this needs to be researched. And when we have those research projects going, then we can target and hit and be able to improve the quality of healthcare.
This now allows the ministry to take an evidence-based approach to treat any disease since the data is readily available. This data will also be used to formulate policies.
If you are basing your decisions on evidence, then your policy, your planning, your budget is a lot more appropriate, and you, with the limited funds which every country has, you will go that extra mile.
Fiji becomes the 6th nation in the Asia-Pacific region to make research available online. Halitesh Dutt, Fiji One News.
And our Health Ministry is also issuing advice on the public during this festive season, especially on the consumption of non-healthy food products. Acknowledging that this is the time of the year when food consumption increases, the public has been encouraged to be mindful of what they consume. Health Minister Dr. Neil Sharma says people should be responsible with their diet and also bear in mind the high incidence of non-communicable diseases.
Everything in moderation is fine. I think alcohol, you need to be careful about what you consume and how much you consume. I'm seeing a lot more young people getting drunk, disorderly, fighting, domestic violence. All that arises out of excessive use.
The Consumer Council has raised its concerns over the fees charged by the Medical and Dental Secretariat for the lodgement of complaints. Complainants currently have to pay a fee of $10 to lodge a complaint. The council says they have also had cases where consumers paid this fee but did not receive any redress.
We will have the capability, and he said, I have to do this. They don't know what.
It's a service that should be provided, because at the end of the day, the consumer who has been duped, right, by these medical or dental practitioners, they have a reason to complain, and they're the victims. So why should the victims pay more?
The Secretariat, however, says that the fees have not prevented consumers from lodging complaints and they work to resolve issues efficiently. The fee came into effect upon the inception of the Medical and Dental Practitioners Decree. The Secretariat says that they've waived this fee in instances where people are not able to afford.
But one may argue that it is a deterrent for people from making false accusations. Anytime there have been cases where people just come forward and let's make accusations and want to lodge complaints without proper basis.
It's that time of the year again when consumers hunt for good bargains. But the Consumer Council has issued a word of caution, urging the general public to use their money wisely. Api Salome Rambo with this story.
Advertisements and promotions have been the order of the season in the lead up to Christmas. With businesses trying to capitalize on the festive season, the consumer watchdog has reminded the general public to be careful when spending.
And when they are not given the best deal, then the consumers feel very sorry for themselves, saying that, I've been hoodwinked, I trusted the trader, I've spent my hard-earned money, and why the product is not working.
With many deals and promotions available, the Consumer Council has advised caution when shopping.
A consumer has the money. And when consumers have the money, they have the power.
It's all about smart shopping. Consumers have been warned not to succumb to retailers' attempts to entice them to spend, especially when it's unnecessary.
And this is the time of the year when consumers should exercise their power. And when I say exercise their power, this is the time of the year when consumers should decide which trader should have their hard-earned money.
She adds that unless the trader or retailer has been ethical, genuine, customer-friendly and willing to go the extra mile to provide goods and services, the consumer should definitely think twice before making a purchase. Api Salome Rambo, Fiji One News.
In its endeavour to be amongst the best in the world, the National Fire Authority is adopting some of the best global practices. This is aimed at ensuring they provide the best services to the general public. This comes as the NFA constantly looks at ways to improve its service delivery as well.
To build capacity not only in terms of our presence, but also build capacity in terms of equipment, in terms of skills and competencies of firefighters.
Through their strategic plan, the NFA hopes to align itself with global standards. Countries such as Australia and Malaysia have been used as benchmarks. With new fire stations, equipment and better training planned, NFA looks to be heading in the right direction.
Our benchmark is to benchmark ourselves against the best international firefighting standards. And then in the next 5 years, we want to work on strategies to get us to be one of the most professional.
The Raiwanga market just outside Suva will be revamped soon. Ecological Farms Limited has won the bid to develop the market. The Suva City Council says the market was becoming too costly to maintain. Ecological Farms is a Nosuri company operating farms in Nosuri and Tailevu.
They'll be looking after the entire repairing and refurbishing of the market, replacing the roof and doing the entire interior, putting air cons and the entire expenses of cleaning, electricity, everything, security will all be undertaken by them.
Umaria says the current market was not fully utilized as vegetable vendors had set up stalls outside the market. He adds those vendors will be relocated, while the 2 permanent tenants have been given 2 months to vacate the premises. Meanwhile, the facility's major tenant, Raiwanga Bakery, says they understand the necessary steps the council is taking and are in the process of relocating as well.
Vegetable vendors, there's only about 8 of them who are staying outside. They will all be relocated. Like I always say, we don't like to chase anybody or displace people out of business. All of them will be relocated in all the mini markets that council have in the capital works for 2014.
Climate change is undoubtedly an important issue, and institutions are using different ways to effectively raise awareness on the issue. The USP's Oceania Centre is using visual arts to highlight this issue. A team from the university had recently visited Benga to teach children ways to better conserve their environment.
We worked with the kids at school on Benga Island, and we did a number of initiatives with them, such as sand sculpture, dealing with messaging about not polluting the sea, and then we did another exercise called carbon footprints. They sound a bit boring, but it's actually quite fun for the kids.
The team encouraged children to use local materials to portray their message. The project was carried out in collaboration with the European Union.
I think physicality, doing something physical, quite often they get caught up in the activity and then later they realise what they were doing and the message comes across. And instead of just talking, to do something physical is a good way of educating.
Stay with us for regional news in a few moments. Vanuatu's opposition leader Ham Lini has withdrawn a motion of no confidence against Prime Minister Moana Carcasses. That's because he didn't have enough members of parliament supporting the motion. The opposition had moved the motion last week, saying a number of government backbenchers disagreed with the leadership of the Prime Minister. But in the end, Vanuatu Prime Minister Carcasses had a strong majority in the 52-seat parliament. Meanwhile, political appointees and former Vanuatu diplomats have been implicated in the selling of Vanuatu diplomatic passports to foreigners. This was revealed in a major 3-month-long commission of inquiry. The 5-man commission discovered the sale of passports started in 2002 and was done despite the fact that there was no legislation in place to guide the issuance of diplomatic passports. The Cook Islands government could pay millions more annually to guarantee Air New Zealand a profit on its Los Angeles to Rarotonga service. According to Radio New Zealand, Air New Zealand has won the contract to continue providing flights to the Cook's capital from LA and Sydney. Currently, the government pays for the costs of both routes and guarantees a 10% return for the Sydney route. Both routes came to a combined cost of around $9.5 million last year. The Cook Islands has budgets up to $12.5 million for this. And you can view tonight's Fiji One News Bulletin on our website at www.fijione.tv. You can also watch previous news bulletins as well as our current affairs, business and sports shows. Fiji Bati confirmed to play Samoa in the Four Nations qualifiers. And Naronga Nabosa out to revive their yearly netball competition.